Not, we get one more map and we wrap this thing up on Oregon. Have fun.
Right. Here we go, Grace, to Skyscraper. I mean, we always say Clubhouse, Dubhouse, you know, Theme Park, Dream Park. Is there one for Skyscraper? Do we have one for that?
I can't think of one, but
No,
I'm sure
I can't.
eventually we will think of one. One day we will think of a funny little name for Skyscraper. I mean, for me personally, I'm a little bit worried now, and I'm also doubly worried because I do think there may be a bit of fun poked at me in the post-show. I feel very, very nervous right now for MIBR, especially given, you know, the way that these attacks are going for them. They're starting on the attack on Skyscraper. When it comes to Skyscraper, you need to be so meticulous about your setup for that execute. And MIBR, they've done a good job of doing so. It's just when it comes to actually initiating those collapses, things keep going out the window a little bit. Granted, there's a lot more room to breathe here. There's a lot more space. It is a lot larger than how Theme Park can play sometimes. So again, maybe that'll give them a slight edge here if they can be patient and just work around that timer. For now, though, the ban phase going through a Thatcher, a Doka, a Kaid, and an Azami. Pretty standard, in my opinion. Especially, you know, Azami, you really do want to get rid of her when it comes to this map. There's so many really long angles that you can utilize, especially on that attack. And to have the defense utilizing that with the Azami utility behind them, that Kiba barrier, to give them a bit more protection, it's not great. Of course, you've also got those external breaches, so if you did want to use the Kiba barriers there too, getting rid of them makes that all the much more easier. You don't have to worry about them being filled up again. Again, eyes on the timer throughout this entire game, in my opinion, because that's where the pressure really starts to get mounted. You have to do such massive clears, because if you go direct, there's always a risk of these roamings becoming a bit more of a retake.
And it's something that Low1 struggled on quite heavily in that last map, was clearing out the Kiba barriers of the Azami, so removing it from play. But that means, Grace, the mirror is available with the black mirrors and the lines of sight that she can bring. And we saw MIBR panic at certain points where Low1 maybe brings a bit of aggression or takes quite aggressive angles. The black mirrors just help them do that. MIBR need to be really, really conscious of that.
100% they do. Yeah, no, they got the Amory utility too, which I do love it. I love when teams bring that, especially when you do have a larger map. It gives you a pretty quick edge. You know, you can suddenly take these positions very easily, very quickly. So if the rest of your team are applying pressure from one dimension, you can get up close and personal within seconds. The main concern for me right now is we're starting to see pressure be applied. We're starting to see maybe the setup here. I think they do want to try and go for that breach wall. We see the Selma's opening up a little bit more. Here we go. Here comes the Thunder. Nigel does manage to take down Mayavo. A little bit of an oof there. Beautiful stuff as Perez gets taken out in retaliation. Already a shoddy to the face being brought out. Some significant cheekiness from the side of Lost One.
Cheekiness indeed. Zera and Low1 in kind, not afraid to bring the knives out to a gunfight. MIBR dismantled at the halfway point in the round. That mirror just posing huge amounts of issues for them. Too close for comfort, and it means Ukidera on the Ash being very, very slow and steady into the site, hoping that Nigel will clear a bit of space for him to go aggressive. There's the first. Is there any follow-up? Here's Nigel on that Amaru going aggressive, but not able to find any heads. All that aggression from Low1 has dissipated. They've retreated back to a safer line in which they can hold from. I say that as Nigel gets a free pot shot onto Lobin. But for now, with 50 seconds remain, Low1 have the high ground, and MIBR struggling to get into sight.
There's a live ping coming through, but no util to do anything about that unless we do see Rise go for a pick. Lobin does get one though, taking out Nigel. Can they go for the second swing? Yes, they can! Gorgeous stuff. Makes it look so easy. Just sauntering through with that SMG-11. Thank you and good night.
Lights out, of course. Low1 looking comfortable, looking flexible, most importantly, when things aren't going their way. And MIBR, they did do well to get back on the site, start sticking the plant, just didn't have the answers or the HP, to be honest, to really cope with it. Rise was holding drum, and that was a great flank just to apply that extra dimension of pressure onto the attackers. It means they're just suffocating on that retake. And even if they can get onto the actual site, they're being flanked from so many angles.
Certainly so. That's kitchen now, though. I mean, this is where the pressure really can be amounted by the defense also, because not only can you hold that below, you've also got a lot of beautiful kind of lines of sight that can be held from the top. Essentially kill holes, which you can really utilize. And of course, the easiest way to deal with that sometimes is by going in the top floor first. But remember, this is a pretty large map. Will they go direct? By going direct, if you go, for example, into Geisha to start to take that verticality, you always run the risk of someone just lurking beneath with a C4, or maybe a Solus spotting you out, and people can go for those pre-fires. There's also the opportunity of Maya on that Oryx going for a little bit of a flankaroonie. Remember the Oryx utility, you can go at patches. Sometimes can be considered a bit of a janky way to go for some of these repositioning, but if you can manage to go sneaky with it, it certainly can benefit you.
If you go sneaky with it.
Sneaky.
That's what we like to see. Well, it depends. We like the chaos as well, but maybe a bit of sneakiness is exactly what MIBR need. Being able to clear out these low swan players one by one. The problem is every time you take out one, there's another one round the corner. They're very, very good on their crossfires so far. And the site selection, Grace, is just interesting. I'm just looking at the stats regionally for Brazil, and this is the only site pick to have attacking favored, actually, in terms of round wins. Defenders seem to struggle. That being said, it is picked a little bit less, but I know, it just, the confidence from Low Swan going, yeah, we can take this. You know, we've got a strategy and we've got an idea. And MIBR, let's see if they can get something going with those frag grenades.
This thing too, so Brazilian teams approaching this, you know, you're giving them multiple entry points here. Yes, they can go horizontal. Yes, they can use a verticality. Ooh, Perez already getting downed. It does manage to go for a little bit of a save before Reese manages to finish off Perez. It's already 1 for 1. Casualties across the board. That's a soft destructibility gone. Something that could have been quite important, again, when they wanted to go for this verticality. So that's already not looking too great. Lobin has been down too. Most presumably, Maya will be able to get them up. You've really got to be careful about this pressure that's going to start coming through from Samurai, especially as we see Lukidera looking for the heads of the players of Lost One. Once again, we say about going sneaky, but I do think they're aware of his position. Redoc trying to approach into drum now, but the C4 is getting prepped. It could be thrown out. This could be pretty nasty if they're not ready and waiting for it.
Nope.
No.
Zero. Backing off. Pulled it. You know, ripped the Velcro, but decided not to throw it. It doesn't even matter because Maya is just going to take the fight to MIBR. Is dancing around that top floor. Reduct at least manages to trade one back onto Lobin, who's, you know, not having... he's having a bit of a better game than he did the previous one, but it doesn't really matter when the rest of your team is playing this well. But still, Low Swan, man advantage, 20 seconds remain, Grace, and 2 players for MIBR to try and recover this with 15 seconds on the clock.
You mentioned for MIBR, they're going off absolutely no information right now. There's 2 active drones that I think are in very stinky positions. Isn't going to give them what they need. Oh, the shotgun, it gets shut down by Reduct, taking down .0. But now they have to clutch out a 1 versus 2. Make that a 1 versus 1, but they don't have time. Time, as I always say, Novi, the 6th defender. And certainly, she defends.
She defends well. Reduct tried his best to attack, though. 4 kills in the round, but it didn't materialize. Unfortunately, MIBR going now 2-0 down. Low Swan looking very, very comfortable as they move on to karaoke. Maybe we'll see, will Low Swan still be singing? Or will MIBR be able to get a word in edgeways? They've looked shaky at points, but the main reason they've looked shaky, Grace, to me, is Maya and, to be honest, the rest of Low Swan taking turns in on that roam, getting those flanks and taking them by surprise.
And this is the issue, right? It's, you know, if you want to have a bit more protection over the flanks, you know, that's where your drones really, really matter. But the drones are being absolutely whittled down from the get-go by Lost One. Granted, they have been utilizing that Solus utility, you know, a lot. I was wondering if they were going to stay with the Nomad, and they are. Foles is actually switching to the Ying, but they're still choosing to take that Nomad. And, you know, we did just discuss the flanks, how impactful they've been for Lost One. I think this is utility that MIBR are aware that they need right now. They need something extra to watch them, especially if they don't have the information in their pockets, especially if they can't give these call-outs of the positioning of Lost One.
Yeah, the air jabs, a nice touch with the Lion as well. The E1D will help things out. Close one, it will apply a bit of pressure. Same with the Yin Candelas as well. You can see this recipe going in for this absolute bloody chaos that's going to just rain down on the site. But it does depend that Warden with the smart glasses could pose a huge threat. So my eyes are on Rise for this round. But Los One, not taking any early engagements. They've got the mirror as well. They can sort of hold back in lounge. What is MIBR going to do? What is going to be their approach? The fact that there is no opening kill means they've got that slight bit of breathing room with the equal man advantage.
Speaking of breathing room, the full site defense is pretty much an off-site hold. You've got maybe some of these, you know, shields positioned in some very fruity places, but the mirror is going all the way towards Office and Samurai because they've assumed this full clear is going to happen. MIBR, however, currently not taking advantage of that, and that could be massive right now for Lost One if they're able to take advantage of the fact that MIR haven't, you know, realized they have all this breathing space. They can now reposition. I think, again, having the information to know, okay, they're not pushing us here. We can now reposition ourselves. Oh, there we go. Nigel actually taking down Maya, though. Samira has been dealt with, and that's a C4 essentially lost to boot. No immediate refrag. But again, if you're MIBR, you have these really tight choke points that you have to go with. These flashes need to come in clutch right now.
Ooh, Nigel just pulls away at the last split second, getting tagged out. You see Dash going aggressive around the corner, but it's Rise that goes down. Nigel with a quick double kill, falls as well. Converts one more to add to the tally, and it's all on .0 with 2 Toxic Waves, an SMG-11, and a Dream removed from the game, decimated by Perez. MIBR, spectacular recovery in that round, or not even recovery, spectacular attacking round.
An ambitious setup coming through from Lost One. Again, the massive extension. But again, as soon as they knew that the approach was going to be immediately towards site, a very direct push there, they all fell back. They all held these angles. In theory, they had everything going for them then. MIBR were not willing to use some of these flashes that they had initially. They were being very passive. They were really making sure that they had crossed their T's and dotted their I's. And eventually MIBR, they went for the jugular. And it was a juicy, juicy jugular at that, Novi, because again, sailing through that collapse, making it look almost too easy there. A big oof there for Lost One, who realistically, in my opinion, given the setup, should have won that.
And the analyst desk can tell me I'm wrong on this, or, you know, anyone else can as well, but I believe that is MIBR's first attacking round win, I think. They didn't take anything on Theme Park. You know, they lost so many rounds in a row, and to finally, you know, to start Skyscraper in the same fashion of bleeding rounds to Lost One, they look better. MIBR taking that first and just converting it in a, you know, an ambitious strategy. That's got to do wonders for that confidence, right? That's going to sit well with them. The players can find their mojo and really get going in this round, because at the start of the game, it looked like it was just Reduct really taking the pressure on. Nigel stepped up to the plate that previous round and did a phenomenal shift for the team of MIBR.
Certainly so. And again, you know, globally, and even, to be honest, regionally, it can be a little bit more weighted towards the defense, but I think realistically with these two teams, it could be quite back and forth. We've seen time and time again how clean-cut both sides can be when it comes to these executes. And you can tell the pressure's on too because of maybe how janky it has been this time around. Certainly, again, MIBR starting on that attack though. Only seeing their approach so far, but I imagine Lost One, maybe they'll be just as flustered. Both teams really trying to deal with the momentum and the aggression from one another. But they're almost forgetting at times, okay, well, we've lost all this intel, but what utility do we have in pocket to make this as safe as possible for us? I think the safety net needs to be there, right, on both of these sides right now. Ooh, Reduct taking a little bit of damage as they're trying to go for this window rappel. I'm surprised we haven't seen a run out yet either, to be honest, Novi.
Or just, you know, face checking a window. That also works. but no, just blood is spilt. No players actually fall. Also worth noting, the Black Mirror got popped by the Twitch drone. That's the Maverick removed, so MIBR struggling a bit, but Nigel has been so on it. He has arisen in the last 2 rounds. He was on that flank looking for that rotation into Drum. He's just been on point, and Rise is going, do I push this? What do I do? The rest of Low Swan has tried to remove Nigel, and Nigel has thrown everything back at them. Low Swan now on the back foot.
On the back foot, indeed. Remember, there's still C4s to work with, so if they want to go a little bit more passive, they can. Granted, Rise looks like they want to cause a little bit of a ruckus again. Do they have the information? There's a C4 around the corner. Gorgeous stuff. Wowsy, wowsy, wowsy. Nigel falls down. And of course, there can be no trade, because that's the beauty of C4s at times. You can just run away before anyone catches you off guard. Gorgeous stuff there by Lost One. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Rise. A second one there too. Lucky Dara falls down. MIBR, they need to start clapping back. There we have it. Maya will fall. There's the clap back they needed. We're back to even Stevens, Novi. A 2 versus 2.
And Rise has been doing amazingly for Low Swan, but with 10 seconds, it is all on their shoulders. But no, the headshot with a DMR grab. Fantastic shot. .0 replies. 4 seconds on the clock. You see, Falls is searching for that kill. Knows the plant can be stuck, but we're playing Ring Around the Rosies like school children right now, because they're just running away from each other. And Low Swan manages to pull through in that round.
There's been a lot of that, though, let's be honest. Like, again, the first and second rounds for Low Swan, they really came down to the nail. This game is certainly getting scrappy, Novi, and you know what? I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for it. Like I said, in terms of attacker-defender win rate, you know, it can be very hit or miss depending on the actual matchup for this region. So again, am I surprised it's coming down to the nail? No. Am I surprised MIBR perhaps haven't quite brought us to, like, you know, a more even and closer round differential? Yes. But a lot of that has just been because of the fact that Lost One can really play around that timer a lot more comfortably. You know, the timer, as I say, 6 defender, it consistently will run against you until you get that plant down. Goodness me, goodness me. As we can see, yeah, 2 of the rounds so far have been won just due to the timer running out. So realistically, if you're MIBR, you need to be sat there and you need to be thinking, okay, we need to get a bit more of a move on when we're initially going for these roam clears, when we're taking that map control. The speediness of it all needs to come a lot more consistently. Granted, you know, the drones are just being dealt with. The drone eco, to be honest, from MIBR has been a little bit stinky. Let's be honest. Like, they need that information to clear Novi, and that's where they seem to be struggling a little bit.
But maybe they've brought in an answer with Perez. Never mind. I was going to say on the Argus launcher, but it's been removed. Changed to the sledge. So maybe leading more into the Iana with the Gemini replicator. But MIBR shouldn't be too upset. That round came down to what? A 1 versus 1 in the most picked site with the best defender win rate in the region, right? And they brought it that close. MIBR, the scoreline doesn't reflect it, but is starting to match Low Swan blow for blow. They just need to make sure that when it comes down to those really tight conditions, they can convert and get that round on the board.
I'm just personally a bit more upset that we haven't seen too much of the vertical game being played, when I absolutely adore it when teams do that on especially Skyscraper. Especially with some of the shenanigans you can really do around Geisha as well. Rise, however, I think Rise so far has been a formidable foe to go up against. There's been a lot of moments where they're just desperately holding on to these choke points. And they've just been so confident about it, even when they're at the man disadvantage. Rightly so, that's why Nigel is going to try and play this a little bit safer, just being like, okay, I don't really want to contest this just yet. I need that additional angle of pressure to remove Rise from his positioning.
No, I need that little bit more pressure. When a player is drawing that much attention, you know, you've got to start addressing that as a team, because we've seen when players, you know, get their mojo, you know, all players have a bit of an ego, but when they really get on it and they're delivering it in the results, it is terrifying. They can single-handedly blow open games, right? Nitro Cell from below. Not going to ping the jump out the window just in time. So, no aggression, jumping back on in. And the sky's the limit in Skyscraper because Maya has blown Nigel sky high. And that's one of the top players. That is the top players. But MIBR removed from the map. And it leaves Los One in a very strong position. However, the Maestro was converted just then.
Yeah, and that's an uncomfortable one too, especially when it does come to that final collapse. Again, the Elder, it's like a hot knife through butter, a really powerful gun to have behind you when you're trying to fend off these executes. Maya, however, is going to take away the Jackal utility from the hands of MIBR, so no more globals, and there goes the hard breach too. Phallus is going to fall down. Already it's not looking great for MIBR. Can they pull this through? Perez and Lukidera, a 2 versus 4. Dash, of course, on the slightest bit of health, but we've seen how fruity he can get when it comes to these more chaotic moments. And certainly Lost One right now, the C4s will start to come flying through, I do imagine. Maya, however, they're taken out. Granted, they'd already used their C4, but this is where Dash can really maybe make something work.
Dash, on that sliver of health, has the vertical angle, but it's actually Lobin who uses that vertical angle. But the plant's going down. Lukidera sticks it out in a 1 versus 3, and yes, the man advantage is not in his favor, but they don't know where he is. They don't know where the plant is. Lukidera getting aggressed on in both angles, left and right and behind. The drop comes through. 180's round, but it's not enough to get the kill. And MIBR, a valiant effort by them, but Los One converts another round to move on to a 4-1 scoreline.
And again, granted, you know, we could consider it close there because there was a lot of opportunity for MIBR to hold that back. It's just, of course, they had the man advantage there. Even though the timer was then ticking against them because that plant had gone down, they still had the advantage. They could just try and swing. Granted, the retake was maybe a bit mistimed at points. Very, very close there. Some naughty timings, I must admit. But for the most part, Lost One, once again, clutching on by the skin of their teeth. Can they, if they bring this to a 5-1, to be honest, Novi, that's going to be pretty nice for them when it comes to their own attacks. Again, I think personally for Lost One, they have had some really lovely attacks on this map before, especially when we consider some of these more kind of, I guess, off-sites, things like Kitchen. I believe they've got a 75% win on, so that's pretty good going.
Yeah, there's a lot going for Lost One right now. Can they convert this one more round, push it to that 5-1? Like you said, a good scoreline. This is leans towards that defender siding, so a 4-2 scoreline, like Theme, isn't insane to come back from. I mean, we literally saw it last game, but 5-1 makes it very, very tricky, right? And Los One is looking good, and it's not just one player. You know, the desk has been going on about Maya, but Rise is amazing. Lobin having a far better game as well. Dash, Maya still chiming in, you know, when they can, alongside .0. It is just everyone across the board on Los One is looking on form. I'm waiting for MIBR to step it up.
So, Solus as well is going to help with, again, we've seen how bad MIBR have struggled with their drone eco. That's only going to make things worse. And not only that, but of course give them a lot of information where, you know, the IR is, where the IQ is, as an example. As soon as that IQ starts being used, Lobin should be able to point it out and be like, okay, they've got an IQ. Be a bit more mindful about the utility that is on site. Speaking of utility, the Candela's coming through. Am I already losing a life? Dash is to follow as well. So Lobin, rightfully so, is going to try and reposition here. This is where they've got to try and make sure that all these cross angles are being held. But Rise, once again, the little rat spots that he is able to sneak himself into, it is the stuff of dreams. I am here for it all day, every day. I'm also here for that C4 to the face. Lukidera falls too. Whittling this back to a 3 versus 3. This is way more doable now for Lost One. Can they pull us to a 5-1 scoreline, Novi?
That is the question. And I don't know what just happened. It was looking so good for the attackers just then. But that C4 was the catalyst for the cascade in which Los One just starts clawing their way back into this round. 3 versus 3. Nigel is still alive on that Iana. He's been looking for another C4. Are you kidding me, Low Swan? How many has that been so far in this game? Just this one map. That is incredible. And now you can see MIBR like, what's gone on? What do we do now?
What they do indeed. They're trying to clear some of the util at least. Again, the choke points that they now have to try and go under. Granted, yes, you've got rid of some of this information. You've got rid of those black eyes. Fowls is currently struggling to get rid of the player located in Gator. A very difficult spot. They have gone for the drop down, but will they have heard it? Perez, again, applying the second dimension here. Desperately looking for the heads of at least one of these defenders. Might be able to catch them off guard. There we go. .0. Caught off guard indeed. Can they get this additional pick? Yes, they can. A 2 versus 1. This is certainly doable. Rises has to try and hold them off, and he can't. MIBR. Lovely stuff indeed. A 4-2 split for them.
A nice recovery by MIBR to bring that half more within range. Low Swan did great to try and claw it back, but it wasn't enough. MIBR just looked very, very comfortable in their attack, and it was something that fell apart for them on Theme Park was securing it in rounds just like this, when everything starts stacking against them, when their backs against the wall, stepping up to be able to convert the round, and they've managed to do it. Now they're onto that defensive side. They're going to karaoke race, and Low Swan is on the attack with very similar flavor of attackers we're seeing with the Lion, the Thermite, the Iana, similar to what MIBR was running.
Well, this is it. You need to bring a lot of hard breach, right? Granted, sometimes people prefer to bring something with a secondary hard breach, but with a bit more util behind it. Maybe, okay, there we go. .0 is going to bring maybe Ying with those hard breaches on the secondary as well. Ying's pick rate has gone through the roof in the last, like, well, I say probably 6 to 8 months, to be honest, but certainly nowadays we're just seeing her constantly in these attacker lineups. Such a good piece of kit to go for these pushes with. The Candelas, of course, being really, really useful for just clearing out these all-important choke points. Oh, it's going to be smokes instead. Never mind.
So,
but again, smokes can be even more useful, especially when you've got Candelas behind them, especially if you're saving those Candelas for the execute, Novi. You then pop a smoke down, a few Candelas in case people try and get bolshy and push through said smoke. But again, the breathing room needs to come through first. They need to sell up for such a collapse, and the sell-up will be the most important factor here.
Ball's already tagged down very low. Is going to play safe on that smoke. Otherwise, those toxic babes are going to disappear from use. And in the first 30 seconds, that's probably the worst operator you could want to go down. Well, not want to go down, but to possibly lose. Low Swan is already applying that pressure. MIBR, maybe it's a sign they're still getting aggressive on those windows. They just need to know when to back off. Nigel's holding that drum. You can see they're spread out fully across this top floor. How do Low Swan tackle this roam?
I think MIBR are very, very good at holding these extended, positions. They're able to hold these kind of more off-site positions as well. Granted, it makes the trades a little bit more difficult, but I think it's just because of how confident they are getting those entry picks under their belt. Right now, nearly half the round has gone, and no one has died just yet. So we can see a lot of patience on both sides from these two. No immediate attempts for over pushing, over extensions. We have seen some attempts at trying to get the kill under their belt, but they're not being too dangerous about it. A very good sign, Novi.
But my one concern is the huge criticism we said towards Low Swan was not being able to pull the trigger. They've certainly pulled the trigger into Perez, who takes down first blood. Lobin also falls by the wayside. It's a double kill for the MIBR player. Nigel is traded back, but with a minute remaining, the man advantage sits in the hands of MIBR. But Maya is doing an amazing job on that backline, pushing through drum, but is now getting aggressive upon themselves. It's a 2-on-2 Grace with 50 seconds, but there's only so few players alive with so few utility remaining.
The thing that's starting to get a little bit concerning, well, certainly concerning now. Maya now left in a 1 versus 2. There's one. Can they get the second? Yes, they can! Oh my goodness, you saw it yourself, jumping up for joy. Wowsy, wowsy, wowsy. First attacking round by the skin of their teeth again. Wow. Whew.
This is first time getting to cast Brazil, and I've got to say, there's a difference watching it and then being able to actually cast. How impressive these players are. Like, the mechanical ability here, just that drive-by by Maya. Just snaps straight onto the head. The stand-up as well. There we go. Just the passion as well. It's just incredible. But most importantly, Grace, Los won 5-2. They've just won an attacking round. On the first attacking round, arguably your primary site is usually your safest bet. Los won. Is this just their series now?
Novi, this is it, right? In theory, that shouldn't have worked. The way that they attempted to execute, I think they had a bit of black control. You know, they had the Ayana going up there. They had all of top black basically under their belt, so they weren't too concerned. It's the fact that they didn't deal with the player in karaoke and then just swung in and tried to go for a pre-fire, I guess. Or maybe, maybe they didn't have the information. Solis was on the board, so maybe they weren't utilizing those drones to try and find where that positioning was, and they were just kind of going in blind. But it was such a risky move from the get-go, and I was like, oh, this is a really, really uncomfortable collapse. And then in true Lost One fashion, they're just able to completely turn it on its head. They just go for these peaks, they get their wands, they get their scalps collected around their belts, and they're like, oh, I guess we won then.
It's right, we always say this, Rainbow Six Siege, you've got all the strategy. There is thousands upon thousands of variables every single round. But in the end of the day, if you click on the other person's head quicker than they can click on yours, you've won. That's just how the game works, and it is beautiful. And Los One displayed exactly why they're a force to be reckoned with. MIBR, though, different site. And now an exhibition. The Black Mirror is again being used, and we saw how dangerous that was in the hands of Los One. How is MIBR going to be able to hold on when Los One starts pushing through?
This is it, right? Because what do we really have to deal with it? They could get up close and personal and kind of, you know, knock it out with a little bit of the melee, but most likely they may try and use one of these Selmas to deal with it. Essentially being gifted a bit of a freebie into this breach too. Of course, a lot of teams do like to have that left side nice and open. It gives you the use of that Black Mirror a little bit more efficiently. You can be super hyper turbo aggressive with that kind of setup. But speaking of aggressive, I think Lucidera is already feeling the pressure. They're going to rotate all the way behind their friend Falz. This is where things start to maybe get a bit more uncomfortable for MIBR. They don't want to stack up on each other a bit too closely. They need to maintain some distance to make sure that they are not just completely whittled down if Lost One go for a sudden and aggressive collapse. Remember, they have loads of Yink utility. They have the Monty to hide behind. Let's see how they try and approach this.
You see Dots right there, just holding on with that shield. The captain of the team just literally turning to his team and taking that chance to talk and see what's going on. But that's the first engagement. Not the Monty, not Dots. It's Dash who falls. Iana removed. And Dash having a bit of a mare of a game, but Lobin is doing a lot better this time. Gets another one. Another C4 kill, but this time in the hands of MIBR. Reduct trades on through, but Rise is still alive. No longer. Reduct rinses him, tears him a new one, and it's now a 1-on-2. Lobin, who was on the bottom of the leaderboard last game, has now stepped it up, but in a 1 versus 2 with 15 seconds, Grace, is looking very, very tricky for him.
Certainly is, and there we have it. Perez with the crossfire, this is what I mean about Skyscraper, the long line of sight. As soon as that pixel comes for you, you can take advantage of it. Skyscraper. Again, Lost One, it's really getting down to the nail on both sides, but Lost One just weren't able to have their lucky star there. MIBR can secure another round on the table, preventing Lost One from getting to that match point. And that's the most important thing here, right? MIBR, this is their map pick. They need to try and win this to bring us to the beautiful map of Oregon. I think that one will be quite an interesting one, given how back and forth this one certainly is and how close this one certainly is.
And it's also a case of, like, let's just talk about the stakes here, right? The team who wins will be going forward to face the Titans that are Team Liquid.
Yes.
But the loser is out of a guaranteed potential spot at a Copenhagen major. Instead, they have to play through qualifiers to try and get there. So these teams are desperate. The further, the deeper they get, the better their chances are of making that international event.
I mean, this is the slight concern probably right now. MIBR, I think, to be honest, like MIBR especially lately haven't been looking the best that they've looked. I think that it's been a bit of an uncomfortable season for them. I think there's a lot of sadness, almost an air of sadness. This is why, again, they really need to pull through and try and bring us to that third and final map. Loads of utility to kind of fend off the approach from Lost 1-2. I just want to point out to you, Novi, again, those pog mats lurking in the shadows now. The black mirrors and the frost mats. It's a dangerous combination, so to speak. Because, you know, you've got some of these choke points where maybe there'll be a load of frost mats, you know, instant down. And then you've got other lines of sight where you're just going to be like, well, I can't see you, you can see me. What do I have to defend myself here? Oh, there's a lot of smokes we have. But are you really going to utilize those smokes to deal with a mirror?
It comes down to, with those trap operators, especially for us, in theory, it's really easy to deal with, right? But when there's all those other factors that are going on, and suddenly you've got a black mirror with no information behind that glass of what's going on, things can get very dicey. Both players, Perez and Dash, trading each other very, very low. No way to recover that health. Zera is going to ping that proximity alarm. There is no reaction. Instead, MIBR playing from above, not able to get that angle. Perez and Nigel, 2 quick kills, flurried forward with 1 in reply. But I don't know if it's quite enough. Falls with another one onto .0. Rise is trying to keep them in the game. Again, a 1 versus 4. 3 now for Rise. 11 and 6, a monstrous performance. But it's a 3 versus 1, Grace, with a lot of time, but not a lot going for him.
Well, I guess the safe bet here is the fact that they don't have to worry about any C4s lurking beneath them if they did want to go for that geisha take. But I think maybe the Xcaris will be used as a little bit of the old bait and switch. At least deal with one of those mirrors as well, so that at least prevents some of these nasty angles. Ooh, a little bit of a whiff on the camera there, but they're going to have their position, and there we go! Ready and waiting! Perez can collect themselves a nice little freebie. Not really much breathing room there, to be honest. And rightfully so, we are going to see Lost One call that timeout.
Now, everybody at home, if you have watched since the first game of this series, you will know what happened last time Lost One called a tactical timeout. They were 4-0 down, and then they won 7-1 rounds in a row. Like, it was just back to back to back. There was a quick trade at the beginning, but they were just streamlined through, and then they carried that momentum forward into Skyscraper. They were fantastic at converting in that timeout. Now, MIBR, though, if they can hold on, if they can get another round after that timeout has been called, is this that grit that I want to see from MIBR? Is this what we're about to witness?
You will see, it's a thing, you know, if people call the timeout, usually you expect big things from them in the round afterwards, right? Will be interesting to see what they do. Again, not really too much creativity here when it comes to... Okay, we're seeing the Flores. I think that's kind of a set bet in a way. You know, you're taking that utility to deal with the utility setup that MIBR are bringing. Perhaps that's where Lost One are struggling at times. But again, is it all the utility, or has it mostly been down to those, you know, mirror windows?
Yep. Very, very, you know, fair point. Was it the mirror windows? Was it the other deployable utility? That Flores is going to get rotated off onto the Lion, so maybe that quick execute could be coming through alongside the Thermite. So double hard breach in tow with the Monty to boot. No Ying, though. So despite, I guess there is the ADSs, so that could cause a few issues here or there. But the Ying, we've seen its effectiveness, right? It's pretty phenomenal at trying to take some of these sites. Lost One not choosing to go for it.
They're not. I think they're focusing more on kind of like the golden oldie of just gaining that map control slow and steady, trying to cut off a lot of these rotations. Again, slow and steady is where the risk comes in because it is a large map, as I say. You need to make sure you've got the momentum there. You need to make sure that you're getting a move on, or getting a jig on, as I like to say, Novi. getting a little bit of a jig on.
Getting a jig on.
Making sure you're taking that control as fast as possible. So
Yeah.
you give yourself the breathing room. You give yourself the time to go for a comfortable collapse. Every single collapse between these two across the last two maps have been really chaotic.
It's been very chaotic.
Exactly. Neither team has given each other the breathing room, and it's great in a way. It shows that both teams are willing to kind of go for the jugular. When it comes to kind of securing these rounds more objective focused, I don't think we're really going to see it, really. Oh, we?
No. With how many variables there are, you can't cross off everything. It's just impossible with the amount of time that it takes. So you've got to manage your risk in a way in which you're going, okay, it is less likely, or we checked this X amount of time ago, it is probably safe. Let's just ignore it, carry on with our game plan, we can go from there. Now, Lucadira has been spotted out behind his deployable shield. He's got that line of sight through, but Monty has just said hello, waved, and now Lucadira is very clear, getting force off that. The EMPs go through, which means they can throw a frag grenade or something to that effect, clear it out. And with the time remaining, we're past the halfway mark, Grace. No one has even bled yet. But Los One are rapidly moving towards that site.
They certainly are, and that's certainly a lot better. Getting closer and closer with about a minute to go. So this means they can set up for that execute a little bit more effectively. Perez being removed from Geisha. That's going to completely cut off that line of sight from MIBR as well. And this is where things start to get a little bit spicier. Granted, Lucadera has tried to attempt for that reposition, but even this pressure coming below as well, this is where Lost One are certainly starting to momentumously gain the advantage. They're getting these angles under their belt. The Toxic Babe could go out to try and push .0 away, try and go as a little bit of a warning shot, but remember, Black control is now in the hands of Dash as well. So Falls could be about to be pinched out here, Novi. This is where things certainly start to get a little bit nastier. Maya taking out Lucadera, that's Geisha control once again taken away. Reduct does get the trade back though, so that's at least a trade coming through from MIBR. Can they get another one? No, they can't. Dash is going to take down Reduct as Falls falls down as well. Nigel, my friend, you're left at a 1 versus 3. Can you hold off this match point? The plant is going down. They just have to go for these peaks. They have to get aggressive here, Novi. He's not going to try and do it. He's just going to try and be a bit more passive here. And this is where things really get uncomfortable because that Monty is slowly, menacingly coming towards him like a Dalek in the night. They might try something a little bit ridiculous here. They might try and go for the melee. Only time will tell. Very, very uncomfortable right now for Nigel. Can they clutch this out? No, they can't. There we have it. .0 willing to be cheeky enough here, Novi. Cheeky. To
Cheeky
chase him all the way into Geisha.
And that is the fear of the mountain that's standing at your gates. It just looms over you, and poor Nigel didn't know which way to go. Los One finally push it through. That tactical timeout certainly working wonders for them. It was still very chaotic, very back and forth, but it doesn't matter. In the end of the day, they got the round win. MIBR didn't. They are now in map point, series point, 1 round away from sending MIBR packing out of playoffs.
I can't believe how much I'm about to get bullied on the desk if Lost One take this. This is the issue. I don't know if I can handle it, but at the same time, this is the thing I said before. As you know, MIBR on paper, they should have won this. As soon as these map picks came through, it was like, oh no, oh dear, oh no, oh dear, oh dear. Lost One certainly comfortable on, to be honest, both of these picks, and then of course Oregon. You know, granted, if it does go to that decider of Oregon, I still think that is a decent map for Lost One. They seem to prefer it a little bit more than MIBR do too. So again, even Steven's playing field that is much rather preferred. Could potentially imply a bit of a field day if it did go to that final map, even if MIBR can pull it back now here. But certainly if you're an MIBR fan, you want this comeback to come through. You want them to get these 2 rounds on the trot and pull us to that oh so delicious overtime.
Part of me is very selfish and really wants to see that 3rd map, because I think Oregon, with both teams being so chaotic in terms of their attack and how narrow Oregon can get, I think it's a recipe for a spectacular game. But, you know, this pondering, this hypothetical doesn't matter. It is all up to MIBR now. If they want it badly enough, if they can perform at the level expected, they can bring it to overtime. But Los One is snapping at their heels to close out this series.
Snapping at the heels brings up a wonderful mental image, but it is true. They are, every time it's come down to the nail for a lot of these rounds, granted, but when Lost One decide to go for it, it is snappy, it is punchy, and certainly I'd even say they're playing this map better than the last one. Opening kill going in the favor of Lost One. That's certainly going to start to look nice, but the run out from Perez, goodness me. At least MIBR certainly playing for these trades right now, Novi.
But that's the smoke going down between the two SAS operators. In this round, you really probably want the mute to go. Yes, he has the nitrocell, but those smoke, those toxic babes are so integral, especially with that mountain, the Monty still in play. Dash pushes forward once more. Reduct has been amazing in trying to recover some of these rounds. Now the pressure is building on MIBR. 2 nails in the coffin have already been hammered in their playoffs hopes. The 3 are still sticking out, and Los One is readying their hammer for another swing.
Hammer can be swinging, but speaking of swinging, I think MIBR themselves aren't afraid to swing these angles if they need to. Granted, Lost One already have so much pressure, so much control. They are attempting to set up here for some kind of spicy collapse. They do have that pressure coming through from Dragon as well now too, pushing back MIBR. Speaking of the pushback, Maya's going to fall down as Lukidera decides to go for a little bit of a swing around the corner. Can Perez hold off this pressure in Garden though? That is a question on everybody's lips right now. Can they do it? Dash! Taking down Nigel. That's at least 1 dealt with. 2 remaining on the site. They just have to be a bit more passive here. Will the shotgun go out? No, it won't, because Perez is going to be downed here. And Lukidera, 1 versus 3. Dash gets taken out. Remember, Lobin on the tiniest bit of health here. So tickle him and he may fall down. Looks like the C4 may be attempted for the shutdown here. Have they read into it? No, they haven't. They came off just in case it was there. And MIBR, just because of the timer, by the skin of their teeth, once again, we see a round come through because of time being the 6th defender.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the grit I was looking for from MIBR. You know, in the face of adversity, a 1 versus 3, and you can still stay calm, stay poised, stay aggressive to bring that round back. You can see Rise almost continuing at firing at the body as maybe a bit of disrespect, maybe venting a bit of frustration at this map. But that frustration's gonna build. They can't let it get to them because MIB are 1 round away from pushing us to overtime and getting us closer to that 3rd map of Oregon.
This is it. The overtime. I can smell it, Novi. I can smell it. Like coming home to a nice Friday dinner. I can smell it just in the air. Can MIBR bring us what we want to see? Overtime with these 2 and that 3rd and final map. We deserve it. We deserve it, I feel. A spring miracle it would be. But for now, Lost One, they've certainly played this, to be honest, incredibly. So far, you know, they have been a bit of a dark horse, I will confess myself. I've been like, okay, I see you. It comes to this matchup, and I'm like, well, MIBR at MIBR. Surely they'll be able to come through and do the things we know and love from them. But no, Lost One have just decided, you know what? We'll take our dubs. We'll take our dubs. Again, even in Theme Park, which can be such a like hit and miss map, they had such a strong approach on it. And even here now with these attacks, they are so clean with how they're approaching it. Maintaining the pressure now, even though, again, they're starting to work more towards that timer. They're starting to realize, yeah, we don't like how much time we're not giving ourselves at the end of these rounds. Let's play it a little bit smarter here. MIBR themselves certainly trying to rely a little bit more on the util game. Maybe we don't take those gunfights. Maybe we keep the sensible option open. We don't have to take these gunfights if we have C4s in pocket. Granted, you know, Falls, once again, one of the only players with that C4.
As that C4. And we've seen that specific C4 on the Valkyrie do very, very well. So that's worth keeping in mind. Nigel was engaged, retreated back to karaoke, so he's holding that upper floor. very comfortable alongside the black stairs with the deployable shield as well. MIBR have littered the path to taking that top floor with tons and tons of bits of utility that they're going to have to clear if Los One wants to push through and take that vertical angle. Otherwise, they're going to go horizontally, and it could be a bit of a nightmare. Perez gets the first, falls, follows up with a second, and Los One is looking like OT, but... Have I spoken too soon, Grace? Because there's a minute and a half left. Los One still have enough time to get back into the round.
They certainly do. Well, as we say that, actually Dash is going to be taken out. So that's all those Candelas now yeeted away from the hands of Los One, which could really help them right now when approaching the full 5-man stack of MIBR. Remember, none of them have fallen yet. And Perez is firmly sat on that diffuser like a dragon on its mountain of gold. Speaking of golden, can go for the swing around the corner. And there we have it. A flawless round for MIBR. And that is overtime, baby.
You said you can smell it. You can smell the overtime. It has happened. MIBR have pulled it back. And Grace. Los One have used their tactical timeout. MIBR. They are looking pretty. There is no additional information that Los One can talk to the coach, calm themselves down. They've just got to go straight into this overtime. The strat book has already been ripped apart. Now it's up to the IGLs to show us what they can do best as we return back into it. MIBR looking very, very confident on their defensive side. And the site's reset as well, so they get a bit more freedom here.
Freedom, certainly. Again, Los One still have that momentum, right? They still have that momentum of how they're approaching on these attacks. If they can shake themselves off a little bit here, put the pedal to the metal. If this thing that scares me, Novi, is if Los One gets this under their belt and then go on that defensive side, that's going to get a little bit uncomfortable for MIBR. Remember, this is their map pick, and they need to win it. They need to win it and take us to Oregon. Otherwise, game over.
Game over. Out of playoffs. No ability to gain a guaranteed spot all the way to the Copenhagen Major. Instead, they're going to be relegated from the competition and perhaps take their chance in qualifiers. Instead, Los One, also worth noting, both these teams, they're trying as hard as they can against each other, but Team Liquid is waiting for them in the bracket ahead. So if it gets hard now, imagine what it's going to be like then for these teams. They need to show us what they can do, step it all the way up to the max and turn all the dials to 11.
Certainly so. Patience is a virtue, but how virtuous are MIBR feeling today? This is the moment where they can't really try something too bolshy, or will they? Will they go for these aggressive peaks in the desperation that they want to get this round under their belts? Or will they be sensible? Will they be patient? Will they fall back and just hold these crossfires? I'm excited to see what they do, especially when we consider the pressure more towards this side of the map. There we go. Nigel's spotting out the Monty top black, so that call out is going to come through for MIBR. Looks like they might try and go for a little bit of a pinch to deal with it as well, if Perez wants to go a little bit fruity and make their way through T. Otherwise, all this control already falling into the hands of Los One. MIBR playing very, very sensible indeed.
They've got to be sensible. Yes, they've got the mirror, but that Lion, the E1D, will be chiming. But also, there's no Valkyrie this time. So they don't have that extra bit of information in the later rounds. They've just got to rely on what they're hearing, what they're seeing, and the communication between the team. So they can't go as aggressive because they don't have that luxury. Also, no mute jammer, which means the drone game for Los One, in theory, should be a lot better, but a lot have already been removed. So not a lot going on in terms for the ace to be able to drone on in. That's one Black Mirror removed. Perez removing Lobin, and that is a huge lobotomy to the side of Los One. That's going to apply a lot of pressure. MIBR sit on that 5 versus 4 right now.
They certainly do. Can they maintain it though? Because remember, .0 is here on the Monty, constantly feeding that information. Dash is going to fall though. Reduct will fall too. Perez also a 3 versus 3 already lost 1. These massive picks coming through to give them a bit more breathing room, but 30 seconds on the clock, Novi. Can they do it? Can they set up this collapse? Looks like they're trying to apply the pressure now towards Office. and they get in. This is where things get a little bit more uncomfortable. Ideally, guard impression needs to come through, but it's only .0 there at the moment on this Monty. Are they aware too of the play around the corner? There we go. Nigel finally deals with .0 there as Maya takes out Falls. Lukidera, Rise will fall down. A 1 versus 1. No time, Novi, no time. It is a tale that we are consistently seeing between these two.
I mean, is back and forth, but MIBR, they've just taken the lead. They've pushed themselves ahead, and Los One now on the back foot. Match point for MIBR on their map pick, yes, but let's remember of how we got here. It was not the smoothest ride. They've had to fight their way back into this, and now Los One, the pressure is on. Do you want to go to Oregon? One of the reasons I voted for Los One in my predictions was Skyscraper and Theme Park. I feel like this goes Los One's way, unless MIBR has something up their sleeves. So far, if MIBR can push to Oregon, it genuinely feels like it's going to be a complete and utter free-for-all on that final map.
I don't know. I think when we consider that this maybe could have gone more in MIBR's favor, considering the fact that they picked it. Granted, you know, Lost One is a good map for them too. I felt MIBR may have brought something a bit more special here. The fact that it's gone to overtime, the fact that it's gotten so close in pretty much every single round as well, that leaves me feeling slightly concerned even if it does go to Oregon for MIBR right now. Again, a lot of mistakes that have really cost them. Things like, again, drone eco has been a major factor for them throughout this series so far. And Oregon, yes, everybody should know it like the back of their hand. You should know some sensible pre-fires, but you still need the information there. You still need that intel as to where the enemy is.
Yeah, the information game is key. But bringing us back into Skyscraper now. If MIBR get away from themselves and start thinking ahead to Oregon and don't concentrate on the here, the now, those one, they can fight their way back in this. They are on their defensive side. This should be their preference. This is where they looked most dominant. But MIBR coming off cold, same as Los One, as they switch sides. It's been a while since we've seen Los One on this defensive side. Can MIBR potentially take them off guard?
This is the thing. Taking off guard would certainly be the benefit. You just got to try something a little bit special, something a little bit unique. Granted, you know, we do have the Mozzie being brought out to try and go for that intel denial on the side of Los One. They have got the Black Mirror to kind of hide behind. They've got the shield on the smokes, Toxic Babes as well. Try and burn out that timer. I think that's the approach they're going to try and take here. So far, they're making a good leeway of it.
Yeah. Drum is going to be where the heart beats true. Dash gets removed by Perez. 16-8. 2 KD. Incredible scenes by the MIBR player. And with that buck as well, he is just on another level so far. Long line of sight. Like you said on Skyscraper, you've got to be very, very careful. But neither player has the scopes to really identify what's going on. They've just got to be looking at those pixels. But there's the reply. .0 keeps Los One in this game. They keep them within this series to try and close it out and eliminate MIBR.
Ooh, gorgeous shot there. Rise ready and waiting. The tight angle around the corner to take down Perez. No immediate trade to come through from MIBR either. They slowly... Look at all this utility Nigel has to make their way towards. Granted, they know it's safe, but... kind of a scary moment to try and go towards something like that. Just looking desperately for a little pixel. Little angle. Speaking of angles there, we have it. Maya and Rise, you're going to fall down. MIBR already has turned this round on its head. They now have that man advantage. Can Lost One hold them back, though? Can they bring us to 7-7? Can they bring us to the final point of overtime? Shotgun in hand, Slobin is just waiting for these players to swing down the corner. A little bit of a warning shot. .0 gets to crossfire, though. There we have it. No time, potentially. This is where .0 needs to try and hide. To try and make sure they don't get caught out here. There we have it again by the skin of their teeth. Novi once again Lost One winning because of that timer being in their favor.
And MIBR are going to be potentially kicking themselves just then, because that looked winnable. They had the man advantage. That Perez with that beautiful opener, but that lack of droning caught them out when they couldn't clear drum efficiently. And then you can see .0 just dances around the corner. The scream of victory just then. More players standing up for the side of LOS1, pushing us all the way to 15 maps, Grace. We are absolutely treated by these two teams.
We certainly are. I'm almost sweating right now for both sides. You know,
You're sweating.
If you're lost, well, this is it, right? If I'm feeling like this, goodness knows how these players are feeling. Lost one right now. They are one more round away from winning against MIBR of all people. And they know they then get to go up against Liquid, which I'm sure they'll have so much fun with. MIBR, though, they need to win this round in order to bring us to that third and final map. So the pressure is really massive on both sides, and we need to consider the mental game almost here as well. Looking at these setups, though, pretty bog standard on both sides, I'd say. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Again, both teams playing this safe, I'd say, Novi, to be honest.
Yeah, at this point, do you really want to take a completely out there risk, right? Or do you want to keep it something safer, secure, more practiced, maybe low risk, low reward rather than the high risk, high reward style? Seems like you said, both teams adopting that approach. That Ying, the lowest one, could be huge. Lukadira, my eyes are going to be just drilled in on you here to see what you can do with those smart glasses on that warden. 2 minutes remaining, walls being opened, Los One starting to go through that checklist. MIBR, Reduct on that Legion is floating about around Exhibition. If Los One don't drone him correctly, he could catch them off guard.
And that could be massive indeed. Right before the storm, though, again, really indicates to us all how patiently both these sides are playing it right now. The Candela getting prepped just in case someone is lurking. Perez already getting the opening pick. There we have it. The trade can't come through. Loban will fall also already for Lost One. They've lost 2 players, 2 pretty impactful players. All that information, that global utility too. That is a massive blow, Novi.
Huge blow as we hit the halfway mark. Los One has everything to do, but it's just getting worse. Perez eventually gets taken down, but not without taking down another one with him to the grave. And Los One in a 2 versus 4 have everything to do, a bit of time to work with, but really not much else. Rise is still alive. Marisol, these are 2 of the standout players for Los One, getting aggressed upon by Nigel, the opposite number, who brings us home. MIBR have done it. They have kept the dream alive of playoffs and are pushing us onto that final map of Oregon.
Goodness me. I think that's... My brain is just blown with how that went. You know, MIBR, it was not looking great for them, Novi, but they secured it at the end. And this is the thing. The consistent factor between these two teams is how a lot of these rounds are being